Okay.
This took out many of the native.
It's 11:11. Sorry.
Is he joining? No,
The Great Swamp, they might be busy scattered with new move. Don't worry about it. Okay, so.
And so this took out many of the warriors, and then finally Metacom was killed by I think by one of his own men. And the English had called him King Philip II.
What the other tribe he tried to align with? Called the Mohawk, am I right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's where the word hawk came from. I'm not sure.
Maybe they got it from over.
Yeah, no. So.
And yeah, so this war was called the King Philip's War because that's what they had called him.
King Philip's War.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Wow, because English called Metacom King Philip, huh?
Yep. Yeah, they called him King Philip.
So it's not European guy, okay.
Wait, did they call him? I don't know why I said the second.
King, that's a special, that can trick you there, huh?
Yep.
Can you believe that? A person is granted, you said, is it right, granted from Harvard, you know, try to whatever, so, you know. John what? His name? John Sassman. That's very interesting. Okay, next one is we're going to continue the reading.
It's actually two more parts this chapter.
Two more parts, exactly. So, Eulalia, where's your book?
Yeah, right here.
We only have two books.
Okay, you can help.
Yeah, we only have two books.
Okay, go ahead. You read.
Me?
Eulalia read. Then you read, if you like. We're gonna finish this 2 sessions today at least, okay? So.
War against the colonies. Louis IV saves New France.
14.
Oh, right. Wait. Oh,
The X
heavy.
is 10.
Sorry.
That's good.
Up north of Massachusetts, the French colonies were also fighting with the Native American enemies. The people of New France had done their best to be friends with Native Americans nearby. Years before, Samuel Camp Champlain had been careful to make friends with the nearest tribe, the Hurons. He gave them presents, slept and ate in their villages, and helped them fight against their enemies. But the Hurons had suffered from this friendship. The French gave the Hurons presents, but they also passed along a terrible new disease called smallpox.
So, what is the most population of Native Indians? Smallpox, okay? That can be a question, you know? Smallpox. Okay, good. Okay, let me read. You can take a note. So. But the Hurons suffered from this friendship. The French gave the Hurons presents, but they also passed along terrible new disease called smallpox. The Hurons never been near smallpox before, so their body could not recognize the germs to fight them off. They began to grow ill. Rashes spread across their faces and terrible breathing and swallowing. When half the Huron tribe died from smallpox. Okay, how many? One half. If I give you a question, say that, hey, 80%, 90%, or 50%, about 15%. Eh? Yeah. Okay. Then let's see the another one. Iroquois. What that is? Then Iroquois said Detroit, New France, because the French has been friends, the allies, Hurons. So that's another tribe. Small parties, Iroquois warriors raided farms in Quebec. Notice this is modern day Canada area, right? So, burning horses, killing settlers, as a war band laid siege to Montreal. Now you know Montreal, right? So. Montreal, a large settlement in New France, the settlers fought back. The fierce, determined Iroquois were experts of forest fighting. They appeared in the spirit with speed and speed, leaving death destruction behind them. The attack went on and on. More and more French settlers left the dangerous land of New France and went home. The colony shrunk until and almost disappeared. Give the book to her too. She can read it? No, actually, Esther, read on. So.
Where are we?
I couldn't, after I was taking notes,
Disappeared.
I couldn't catch on where we were.
I'm so sorry.
The colony
take,
shrunk
Oh, there we go,
until
there we go.
it-
take your time to take a note then. So.
But then the King of France, Louis XIV,
Mm-hmm.
stepped in to rescue New France.
Louis XIV is good king or not a good king? We'll learn
Not a
a
good
bit
king.
about of him something. He built a beautiful palace called what? Ah, was okay. What verse?
We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
so
What
you
was
know.
it?
Yeah,
No, what was the
he's a song king. Remember that? So.
Yeah, but what was his kingdom maybe?
Huh? The
You said-
palace. I'm talking about the palace.
The
now.
What was it
big
called?
wooden palace. Or,
Called a Valsa something. Wassail. That's what
Oh,
I say. Wassail. Yeah.
Or Versailles, or that weird word that no one
Yeah,
knows.
it's French
No
word.
one knows
Yeah,
French word.
Wassail. So.
Yeah.
Today's most famous place, we're beautiful. So anyway,
Louis XIV, the Sun King, had spent years fighting wars to expand his French empire. He didn't intend to lose his colonies in the New World. So he sent soldiers from the French army over to fight the
Iroquois. Don't be precious. Take your pace, but read good. Iroquois. Do it again. Iroquois.
Iroquois.
Yeah. Okay.
He promised these soldiers that he would give them land in the New World if they would save New France. The French soldiers sailed to New France and marched off their ship, ready to fight. They had muskets and cannons. They had already fought bloody wars in the battlefields of Europe, and they were sure that they could defeat the savages of North America. They were wrong. The battlefields of Europe hadn't prepared them to fight in thick woods and tangled brush. Even with their bullets and cannonballs, the French soldiers weren't able to defeat the Iroquois nation. But they did manage to protect the settlements of New France from attack. Finally, the Iroquois agreed to observe an uneasy peace. They retreated back to their own land, and the French soldiers settled down on their new land, ready to begin new lives. Now they were faced with a different problem. Louis XIV had sent hundreds of soldiers, all men, to France. These soldiers wanted to start families and raise lots of little French Canadians. But there were 6 men for every woman in New France.
Yeah, that's trouble, huh? So it's.
Once more, Louis XIV came to the rescue. He announced they would pay young French women large amounts of money if they would go and live in the colonies. Many young women accepted the king's offer and sailed across the Atlantic to New France, where they were greeted with great joy by French soldiers looking for wives. These young women became known as filles du roi. I have to write down that. Or daughters of the king. Now that New France was a safer place to live, the colony began to grow once again. Farmers called habitants cultivated in the fields of the New World. Fur traders called voyageurs sailed up and down the rivers, trading for furs. Ships from France came to the ports of New France, bringing French goods, newspapers, and more settlers. The town of Quebec and Montreal grew larger and richer. The streets were laid with cobbles, stone houses.
Have you heard of the song called "The Silence"? The song "The Silence."
I don't think so.
Cobblestones. It's cobblestones. Yeah, go ahead.
Stone houses stood proudly in the middle of each town. Silversmiths wig makers, and tailors worked hard on their crafts. The gentlemen and ladies of New France, like the courtiers of Louis XIV over in France, decked themselves with silk, lace, powdered wigs, and jewelry.
When it was,
Powdered wigs.
yeah. You remember Washington, how he dressed himself?
But why are they powdered? I don't get why they're powdered wigs.
That's because Louis XVIII is a vain glory man. So he started the fashion business of the world. So perfume started from him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, fashion started from him. The chair you're sitting started from him. Yeah, like a throne. You know, so. Everybody copied their fashion. So, anyway, go ahead.
But the Iroquois had not given up. Once again, they began to attack the rich towns and farms in New France. One October morning, the farm of
Francisco, Francis,
Duret lay peacefully
Jarrett.
Duret.
Yeah, Francis.
Francis Duret.
So he is a what? A habitant, am I right? Because he's a farmer. You see that?
Lay peacefully under the mellow fall sun. Francis Duret was a seigneur.
Oh, okay.
Seigneur.
Senior. Hey, senior. You heard that before, am I right? Senior. That's where it came from.
An army officer who had been rewarded with a large farm.
Yeah.
Duret's farm was called Vitrus.
With cherries.
Vitrus.
Cherries. Yeah. The French have the like emphasis with cherries. That's all you say.
Cherries.
Yeah.
Many farmers lived on the lands of Vitrus, cultivating Duret's field with him. On this particular morning, Francis Duret and his wife were both away from the fort, tending to business in the nearby town. Their 14-year-old daughter, Mary Magdalene, was walking...
Maria, that's literally Maria Magdalene.
Magdalene.
That's actually copied of just like a Catholic tradition, but a copy from biblical words. Maria is Mary. Magdalene, you know Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. It's really the same name. Yeah, exactly, but a different variation because of the
But
French.
it's Marie,
Yeah.
not Mary.
Yeah.
Marie
Magdalene, yeah. So, you remember that name, am I right? So
For the Bible, yeah?
yeah, in the Bible, that's her. Yes.
was walking through the fields. She could just see the fort in the distance. Birds sang in the trees nearby, and the cool fall air moved against her face. Suddenly, Marie Magdalene,
That's good. That's right. Yeah.
heard gunshots in the distance. Then she heard a terrifying sound, the voice of farmers screaming, "Save yourselves! The Iroquois are attacking."
Iroquois.
She turned and saw a band of 50 Iroquois warriors charging toward her. She ran toward the fort as fast as she could. Later, Madeline wrote down the events of that day. This is a simpler version of her story.
Let's Naomi read that story.
So it's Iroquois.
Mm-hmm.
The Iroquois who were chasing me found that I was too far ahead of them to capture. So they started to shoot at me. Bullets whizzed by me. As soon as I came close enough for the guards inside the fort to hear me, I started shouting, "Get your weapons! Please, come save me!" But no one appeared at the walls. Just as I reached for the gate, the fastest warrior caught me by the handkerchief around my neck. I yanked it off, leaving it in his hand, and slipped through the gate.
I think I can get the message across to Nicole using my computer. I don't know why. What is wrong? Anyway, so go ahead. Yeah.
I yanked it off, leaving it in his hand, slipped through the gate, and pushed it closed.
That's strange. I can use my phone. I can't use my the link to you and Keyline. Their system setup is so confusing. Always a Keyline in my my laptop. Go ahead. I can read it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I looked around me. There were a few gasps in the walls of the fort. I started shouting at the others inside the fort. Put posts across the gaps. Repair the walls. And I grabbed one of the posts myself and put it into place. When the others saw me carrying a post, they began to fix the walls themselves. So I went to find the guards. I found one hiding. Another was inside the room where the ammunition and powder was kept.
Ammunition
What is that? Like
Gun.
guns and stuff?
and bullets.
He was holding a lighted fuse. What are you doing? I shouted. He answered, It's hopeless. We should blow ourselves up, and the Iroquois can't capture us. Miserable man, I screamed. Give me that. He gave me the fuse. I could see that no one else could lead us, so I took off my bonnet, put on a hat, and grabbed a gun. I found my two little brothers, who were 12 and 10. Come on, I said. Let's fight to the death of our country. For the death of our country. He loaded the cannons and shot them from the walls. The Iroquois were frightened by this and fell back a little. Inside the fort, women were crying. I ordered them to shut up inside the room, so our enemies could not know that we were frightened. The sun was setting. The sky was filled with clouds. Snow and ice had begun to fall. I knew that the enemy would attack again soon, as the night grew dark. All night we stood on the walls, guarding the fort against the invaders. I took one corner. My two brothers took two more. The last corner was guarded by a man of 80 years old. For 8 days we held the fort against our enemy.
Wow.
Finally, French soldiers from a nearby settlement arrived and drove off the attackers.
How old was she? 14 years
Only
old.
14, yeah. For her
Yeah.
bravery, Marie Madeleine de Virtuous
The Wacheras. That's
Cheris
different.
became a French-Canadian hero.
Mm.
Her statue still stands in Quebec today.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that story from this.
You do?
Yeah.
Where you learn it?
I've read the book before.
You read this book before, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Man, seriously? This no good. You're learning something you already know.
Well, I mean,
You already know this book, right? You know this book. What about you? You don't.
I don't remember all the details, but like,
Okay.
there's some stories that
You
I
know
can
some
remember.
story, remember anything. Anyway, well, let's continue the program then. Even we're repeating ourselves.
Continue the
This is
program.
for Esther's sake. Okay, next portion. William Paine's Holy Experiment. I like to read this one. Your dad was excited about him. William Paine's Holy Experiment. Is that okay, Elijah? If you want to read, then you don't take the notes, okay? So
Yeah, I can.
I usually take
you
notes
like-
at home.
Okay, you can. Okay, is that okay for you? So,
He's
Okay.
wanting to read.
you want to read? Then
I
you
mean-
don't take notes. You want to take notes? You don't read. So
I
nobody
usually take
read
notes
our
at
notes.
home, so I don't often read.
I mean, I would prefer to take notes.
I know. So it's your choice. So let me read.
Yeah, I'll just take notes.
Okay, good. Then you going to help me out, right? So, yeah. Okay. William Paine's Holy Experiment. While the colony in France, New England fought for swell, a man named William Paine was working hard to build a different kind of colony. Paine wanted his new colony, Pennsylvania, to be a place of peace, brotherhood, and love, not a place of war. But the history of Pennsylvania was filled with trouble. The story of Pennsylvania began in 1660 when William Penn was 16 studying at the University of Oxford. The English and the society invited Charles II back to England. William's father, officer in the English Navy, commanded the ship that brought Charles II back to England. In gratitude, Charles II made William's father an admiral and a knight. And when Charles II, not the two, okay, was crowned in London, Admiral Penn loaned him 16,000 pounds for his treasury, more money than a farmer or merchant might earn in his entire lifetime. Admiral Penn wanted William to have a position at the new royal court, perhaps as ambassador or army officer, but in Oxford, William started going to the meetings of a religious group called the Society of Friends of the Truth. Friends were nicknamed Quakers because people whispered that they quaked or shook in the presence of God. Quakers refused to belong to the Church in England. Instead, they gathered together in plain meeting houses where they sang and prayed quietly, waiting for God's word to come directly into their hearts. Quakers believed that every man and woman should be equal. So they refused to use the word you because in those days people used the word you when talking to superiors and the word thee when they talk equal. Is that interesting? Okay, you know that, huh? That's happened a lot in those English specific poems. Quakers use thee when speaking to everyone. They wouldn't even, that's interesting, they even talking to God, thine thee, per those days. So you heard Elizabeth English, so it's interesting. They wouldn't even take their hands off in the presence of the king. They look at a lot like a villain, so Quakers were often arrested, put in jail. Admiral Penn did not want William to become a Quaker, so he ordered William to come home from Oxford and sent him to France instead. In France, William met Louis XIV to learn French dress, a French manner, and the glittering, beautiful French court. When he returned, he seemed content to lead the life of a wealthy aristocrat. He went to parties, balls, decided to become a soldier, and had his torture painted in a full suit of armor. But when William was playing the part of a fashionable young man, he was still thinking about the Quaker ideas. Soon, William Penn was going to Quaker meetings once more. At the age of 22, sitting in a Quaker meeting, William Penn was suddenly filled with joy. "The Lord visited me," he later said, with a certain sound, the testimony of his eternal word. So William could no longer be a soldier. Quaker believed that the fighting was wrong. He certainly would not be a royal ambassador. Quaker were not inferior in court. When Admiral Penn found out that his son had become a Quaker, he was so furious that he threw William out of the house and told him not to come back. William Penn went to live with his friends in London. He wrote tracts defending Quaker beliefs, preaching in public, and was thrown into jail. When he was released, he learned that his father was dying. William Penn hurried home to sit by his father's side. 10 days later, Admiral Penn died. William spent the next 3 years writing and thinking about Quaker ideas. Meanwhile, all over England, Quakers were put in jail because of their beliefs. William Penn knew that over in North America, Puritans, the former colonies, were the good worship and the place. Why could not Quakers have a colony as well? Now, may I query a little bit? What is the religious group that Charles II belonged to? Protestant or Catholics? Or Quakers? Not Quaker, so.
Who?
Charles II, the king. Welcome back.
What was it? Was
He was Catholic, right?
Yes, Catholic. Yeah, he was escaping France. So William wrote to Charles II, reminding the king that he still owned the Penn family 16,000 pounds. He asked for the king to pay him back, not with money, but with land in North America. Charles II agreed and insisted that the land be called Pennsylvania in honor of William's father. In 1681, he gave William Penn piece of land in the northwest bank of the Delaware River for his own. The land was almost as big as the country of England. That's a lot of land, huh? Yeah. William Penn planned to use this land for a colony where Quaker ideas could be followed. He wanted the settlers to be like brothers or equal to each other. The capital city would be called the City of Brotherly Love, in Greek, Philadelphia. Philadelphia means what?
Philadelphia.
Brotherly love. City of brotherly love. Okay. Okay. The colonists would govern themselves. To help them, he wrote out directions called the frame of government. That's almost like the first constitution. Huh? Yeah. It explained how the colony would run. Colonists would vote to elect the three groups of leaders: a council, assembly, and a governor. Is that amazing? As a framework for laid down American structure or framework of government. Council, assembly, the governor. Council, Senate, assembly, Congress, a governor. Who is the governor? The president, right? So the council would make laws. The assembly would vote on whether or not the law should be passed, and the governor would make, I think, the assembly and the Senate. The governor would make sure that the laws were followed. That way, no one group of people would have all the power. Separation power concept. Later on, this framework government would be a model for the American Constitution. That's very cool. William Penn did not forget about the Native Americans either. He sent them a message promising to pay them for many land that the colonists used. In directions to his new colony, he wrote, "No man should by any ways or means, in word or deed, affront or wrong any Indian. The Indian shall have liberty to do all things that any of the colonists should enjoy." In 1682, William Penn himself came over to Pennsylvania, bring 100 colonists with him. In the next year, 23 different ships arrived all at a time, one at a time, bringing new settlers, 2,000 in all. That's a lot of people, actually. Okay. At this point, Esther, you want to read on? You want me to read on? That's a big question.
Oh, you need to do next? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then let me read. I want to move on, maybe read more today. So, with the governor of Maryland, the colonists south of Pennsylvania watched Pennsylvania's growth with alarm. He thought that the Pennsylvania colonists were settling on land that also belonged to Maryland. Just 2 years after William Penn's arrival, the Maryland governor announced that he was going to sell to England and asked him to give him part of the Pennsylvania land. William Penn did not want to leave his colony so soon, but he had no choice than to follow the Maryland governor back over to England and defend Pennsylvania's right to its land. So sadly, he boarded his ship, set out on a long journey across the Atlantic. He would not return for 15 long years. When arrived in England, he found that Charles II was too ill to see him. Not long after, Charles II died without leaving a son behind him. His brother James II claimed the throne, but James II was Catholic. The people of England were horrified. Did this mean that England would become a Catholic country? And then something even more alarming happened. James II and his wife had a son. They planned to raise this little boy to be a good Catholic and James' heir. Now England might be facing a whole dynasty of Catholic kings. That's unthinkable to them. The English Protestants revolted. They sent a message to James' old daughter Mary, who lived in Holland. Mary was a Protestant, and he has married a Dutch nobleman, William III of Orange. Both were Protestant. To come to England and see the throne. English Protestant pleaded, but be king and queen and deliver us from Catholic rule. William and Mary agreed to come. They also agreed to sign a paper promising that they would not try to pass any laws without the approval of a parliament. In November of 1688, they sailed to England along with 14,000 Protestant soldiers. As when they landed, James' royal army deserted him and welcomed the new Protestant rulers. James, like his brother before, had to flee to France. The Protestant England were delighted. They now had a Protestant king and queen who had promised not to be tyrant. The English called this takeover the Glorious Revolution. Now that's the term, Glorious Revolution. The new monarchs, Mary II, William III, would never try to seize the power from Parliament. But the revolution wasn't so glorious for William Penn. He was arrested 3 times because he was suspected of loyalty to the king. Each time he was released, he tried to get a ship to take him back to Philadelphia and failed. Finally, he was forced to go into hiding. He stayed in hiding for years and years. Finally, when fears of James' second return began to die down, William was able to come out of hiding and buy passage on the ship to North America. When he walked on its gangplank in the harbor of Philadelphia, he could hardly believe his eyes. In 15 years, Philadelphia has grew to be the second largest town in all of North America. The city was filled with shops, tall brick houses, wide streets, southern people, the whole experience, and succeeded. Today, a statue of William Penn stands on top of Philadelphia City Hall. The statue is 37 feet long. For many years, no building in Philadelphia was allowed to be taller than the brim of the statue's hand, so that William Penn will always be the highest spot in the city that he planned. That's very interesting, huh? And we can still have 15 minutes left. I'd like to move on. Box, you know, move on this book. The story, so this lesson is story. Look at the next one, chapter 16, the universal laws of Newton and Locke. I like this chapter. Now, this is the. See, everybody want to take notes? Okay, now I'm ready to read. So go ahead.
I actually take notes at home. So.
Okay.
William Penn set out to build a colony where everyone was equal, and the people of England demanded that their new king and queen, William and Mary, only pass the laws that the people wanted. What happened to the days of knights and castles, when a king could do whatever he wanted, and when the Lord rode through their estates, commanding the peasants to obey? In England and in Europe, the part of the world that we often call the West, those days were fading away. The days of the kings and lords first began to lose their brightness when philosophers and scientists realized that the ancient Greeks, who had long been held up as the wisest men in the world, were sometimes wrong.
That's strange.
100 years before William Penn and William and Mary, the Italian scientist Galileo had studied the ideas of an ancient scientist,
Aristotle.
Aristotle.
What?
Aristotle and
Do it again.
Aristotle and
Aristotle.
Ptolemy?
Ptolemy. I know that one.
It's Ptolemy? Because it has a T.
Ptolemy. There's no T there.
T is silent then?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Ptolemy?
sorry.
Okay.
There's a T
Both
there.
men-
It's silent.
Both men wrote that the sun went around the earth. But Galileo realized that this idea didn't explain his own observations of the sky.
So he invented his own telescope.
He needed a new theory, and then made one. The earth actually goes around the sun. Galileo was one of the first scientists to use the scientific method.
Now, mark that term, scientific method. That's interesting, huh? What it means? It means through observation, experiment to affirm a theory, rather than just pure speculation or presumption. Scientific method is basically use evidence, need verification. So, yeah, go ahead.
Instead of accepting old ideas, he carefully observed the world around him, and then tried to make a theory that would explain his observations.
So it's a theory behind observation or experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost 100 years later, in 1642, a weak, sickly baby was born in England. His parents didn't expect him to live, but they named him Isaac anyway, like the baby born to Abraham and Sarah in the Bible. Isaac did live. As a matter of fact, Isaac Newton lived to be 84 years old.
Oh.
And he used those 84 years to take Galileo's ideas even
I want to
further.
live 84 years old.
As he grew, Isaac Newton became more and more curious about how the world worked. He read every book that he could find. He did scientific experiments. He tried very hard to turn
Lead.
Wow. He tried very hard to turn lead and copper
Uncovering the gold.
into gold.
That's called
Not lead, it's lead.
Yes, lead. I'm
He
sorry.
tried
lead.
he tried hard to turn lead into copper into gold, but he never succeeded.
You know what that called? Alchemist? Alchemist. It's the starting of chemistry, basically.
Yeah. When Isaac was 18, the people of England invited Charles II. Invited Charles II to reclaim the throne.
Mm-hmm.
3 years later, Isaac Newton went to study science at the University of Cambridge. There, he was told to read the ideas of Plato.
Mm-hmm.
And
Astronomy. Astrology.
No,
Huh?
it's
No,
what's
Aristotle.
the name?
Aristotle.
Aristotle.
But Newton thought that the ideas of the modern scientists like Galileo and Copernicus. Yak, we need you. Were closer to the truth. In his scientific notebook, Newton wrote,
Read that. That's Latin.
I don't know if I can.
Plato, Amicus, Aristotle, Macis, Amica, Veritas.
that is Latin for Plato is my friend.
Aristotle is my friend.
I don't know why I can't say that word. Aristotle.
It's Aristotle.
Aristotle.
It's so easy to
The
say.
Because I can't
Emphasis.
think of
Aristotle. That's what it is.
Aristotle. Aristotle is my friend. My best friend is true.
It's not easy for somebody like me.
Aristotle.
Aristotle.
When Cambridge closed down because of the plague, Isaac Newton went back home. He went on studying the world, trying to figure out why it worked the way it did. While he studied, thought, and wrote, Charles II ruled, grew ill, and died, and James II came to the throne. One day, Isaac Newton was sitting beside a window, thinking and staring out into the family apple orchards, when he saw the apple fall to the ground. He thought, why does it always fall down? Why doesn't the apple ever fall sideways or up? Some sort of force must be pulling on the apple to make it always fall in the exact same way.
That's very interesting, huh?
Yep.
Huh? No man had ever think like that before.
Newton went on observing, doing experiments.
Why you cannot fly, man?
I wish I could fly.
Yeah? Why it has to be hair down is beautiful. Hair up is not beautiful. I'm joking.
Newton went on observing, doing experiments, and thinking until he was able to describe the force that pulls on the apple. He called it gravity, from the Latin word grave, which means heavy. This heavy force means that large bodies such as the Earth have a force that pulls objects down to them. Isaac Newton learned that he could predict using mathematics how strong that the force would be anywhere in the universe.
Now you know that formula? Write it out for me. You know the formula.
The what?
For
The
gravity?
formula?
Yeah. To object George is how the force. How
H2O?
large is the force?
Okay.
Yeah. Gravity law. Do you know the gravity law in
No, I
physics?
No.
In the mass of the globe relevant to the pulling force. The larger the mass, the heavier, the stronger the force pulling. The gravity, stronger the gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Making sense here? There's a formula to it.
For
I don't quite remember. You got to just study physics. Okay, do a research on that. Okay, so gravity formula. Go ahead.
Where were we? Isaac Newton learned that he could predict using mathematics how strong that the force would be anywhere in the universe. The next time an apple fell, Newton could tell exactly how fast it would fall and when it would hit the earth. Newton's new rules, which we now call laws of gravity, showed that every motion or action in the universe had a law that governed it. The universe wasn't a huge, mysterious, magical riddle. Instead, people could figure it out and even predict ahead of time what would happen.
Speed have even speed, exponential speed. You know the word exponential? Exponential is when you have an 8, then have a little e on top of the right top corner. Exponential increase.
Yeah.
If you understand, is that with gravity, the pulling, it's never even speed. It's compounded, called exponential speed. Am I right? So, good.
The universe was like a machine that always worked in the same way. In 1687, while James II was still on the throne and growing more and more unpopular for the Catholic ways, Isaac Newton published his ideas in a book called Principia Mathematica,
Wow, that's perfect.
or Principles of Mathematics.
Wow.
Newton's ideas about laws that
Let's see
govern...
how old he was. This point.
He... I don't know.
Huh? It says so, 45. See, that's how you calculate. He was born 1742. This is the year 1687. 45 years old.
45, he came out with a book.
He laid out the book, yeah. He changed the world, science
With
world.
mathematics.
Yeah, he laid out Principia
Principia Mathematica.
That is not just simple mathematics. It's
Yeah.
tell you right the basic mathematics.
Crazy mathematics.
Yeah.
Newton's ideas about laws that govern the whole universe didn't just affect other scientists. Other thinkers, such as philosophers who think about ideas, communists who think about money and how it works, and political philosophers who think about the ways countries are governed, began to think that if universal laws governed objects, universal laws also govern people.
That's linked to the origin and framers of the Constitution. They believe God leave a law that allow people to govern things. Just like the gravity laws govern all objects, there's a natural law behind it. So is the societal laws. They can touch and learn that law and apply to governmental setups. That's why the Constitution. That's amazing.
If they could use scientific method to observe people and make theories about the ways people acted, perhaps those universal laws could be discovered. Then, life would no longer be mysterious.
Hey.
They would no longer need to wonder why other country prospered while another became poor, or why country won war and another one lost. Universal laws would explain all of these things.
Yeah, that's already explained in the Bible. Just don't want to use it. I can use terminology. Go ahead.
Other Englishmen, John Locke, was determined to
Now,
discover
that name
these
is very
universal
important.
laws.
John Locke. John Locke. Everybody needs to read something about John Locke. Okay? Know who John Locke is. I want you to do a study, homework study. Read a little bit of Expedia on John Locke.
Okay. When the English rebelled against Charles I, John Locke was 17 years old.
17 years old.
His
right?
father joined the anti-royalist forces and fought against Charles' royal army during the Civil War. After Charles's execution, John Locke went to study at Oxford. He was supposed to study history and Greek philosophy, but like Isaac Newton, John Locke found these ideas old-fashioned. He wanted to experiment in science and read the new ideas of modern philosophers. When Charles II...
Know me a brilliant reader.
I am?
Man, you are. We're going to use you for audiobook production. You ready? Yeah.
Okay.
She's good, huh?
I don't do it that often, so...
Yeah, it's really good. Go ahead.
When Charles II came back to England, Locke had grown to be a man of 28. The king's supporters knew that John preferred a commonwealth to be a king. Locke was afraid that he might be arrested or even executed, so he left England to visited France, Holland.
He preferred Commonwealth to a king, not to be a king. Commonwealth is
To a
opposite
king.
to a king. Commonwealth means government is shared
Oh, okay.
by a more democratic system. Like we have parliament making laws. Yes. King is a monarchy, am I right?
Yeah.
Good.
So he left England and visited France, Holland, other European countries, learning from other scientists and philosophers. He stayed out of England through the reign of James II. When Mary and William came triumphantly to England, John Locke returned to England as part of Mary's royal party.
Oh, okay.
Now that England was a constitutional monarchy,
That's a very important word in governmental system. Constitutional monarchy. For example,
Constitutional monarchy.
today is Britain, with all the different parts like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. They all under one Commonwealth. What our word Commonwealth means. America used to be part of the Commonwealth as well, so that's called Commonwealth. So it's not a monarchy. Yet they confess that the queen or the king of England is the head of this Commonwealth. So therefore, the idea is a constitutional monarchy. Okay, so go ahead.
meaning that the king and queen themselves had to obey the laws passed by the parliament. John Locke didn't have to worry about being arrested simply because he preferred to form
One form.
one form of government to another. Now he was free to write down the ideas he had been thinking about for the past years. In 1690, in the year after he returned to England, John Locke published a book called
Treatises.
uh,
Treaties or
Treaties, Treaties of Government.
Treatises.
Two treaties of
Yeah. Well, this is a book that's free to look to read. Okay, so this is one of the major book influenced American thinking about how to frame their government. Okay, so just want you to know.
In his book, John Locke explained that he had discovered universal laws that could predict how people should act. Every man and woman, Locke wrote, was equal. Every human being had, by natural law, the risk to seek life, health, liberty.
Not the risk. There's no risk.
The right.
The right.
Joking.
Wait, yeah, the right to seek life, health, liberty, and possessions.
Hold on, impressed in American founding. So which document? Question.
What
The
is
Declaration of Independence, open document, is everybody have the right to what? To seek their own happiness, basically, right? So, yawning is contagious.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
No king could claim that God had given him the divine power to execute his subjects, throw them in jail, or take them to proper.
So, what the
Or take
remedy
away.
for that? What the remedy for that is called due process. You have to go through trials. Okay. So, go ahead.
But Locke added that groups of people gathered together into cities or countries need someone to make and enforce laws. So people could join together in groups and draw up a contract.
So make and enforce are two different functions in terms of the law, right? So yeah.
This contract gives some of them power to rule over others, but the rulers can only have as much power as the people are willing to give them.
That's a fundamentally different concept of governing. Okay, so
Rulers can't take away the life, health, liberty, and possessions of their subjects.
now that is embodied in American government because of the we want to do. That is private rights, private possessions cannot be violated. So.
If they join together, announce that the contract isn't valid anymore, throw the rulers out of office and appoint new rulers. Men under government, Locke wrote, should have a standing rule to live by, common to every one of that society, and not to be subject to the inconsistent, uncertain.
Inconstant, you're right.
It's not inconsistent. Wait, is it? No,
just what I-
Inconstant in those Englishes, but it's literally today is inconsistent. The same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Arbitrary. Arbitrary is basically by your own preference, your own initiative.
So the subject of the inconstant, uncertain, arbitrary rule of another man.
So this is very important. One of the major things you want to learn is that before that, the governments and rulers, they take things by the force or by the heritage, okay? Heredity, so one generation another, Solomon become king to David, right? So they don't consult, even they try to take care of the people, but they don't consult the people's will or to how to take care of people's well-being. Different than in the biblical principle is God set up a law ahead of time about the kingdom, right? So making sense to you? But in the European times, even the claim-to-be Christian nations, most monarchies do whatever they want, like the better character, like we talk about this Charles
Second.
Yeah, Charles II, Charles I, and Louis what? Exactly, those characters, they develop a totally absurd idea for rulership, right? So, yeah, don't we call it what? Absolute monarchy, okay? The word is absolute, so. This
So,
dictatorship, this laid the groundwork for later on democratic societies, okay? So, go ahead.
So in other words, even the king has to obey the laws, or else he loses his throne. John Locke also thought that every ruler would be tempted to abuse his power.
The quote thing I shared with you: absolute power corrupt absolutely. You want to write that right now? You want to write an essay someday, not today. Absolute power, write them down, corrupts absolutely. So that is a good thing, like a motto to tell you. If you are in a place of leadership responsibility, you give authority, power, give honor and respect, right? Whatever.
Absolute power, absolute
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Corrupt, absolutely. Corrupts absolutely. So it's bad, but in a sense it's a little bit extreme. But it's the point is the human nature can be very sensual and abusive, so for some check balances on that human instinct. Especially when you have a authority power, your action, your ways can downgrade harm to society, to others. Making sense to you? Yes. Yeah.
John Locke also thought that every ruler would be tempted to abuse his power, so he wrote that a good government would have three parts, like William Penn's colony. One group would make the laws, another group would enforce them, and a third group would be in charge of fighting wars with other countries. That way, no king could ever make laws just for his own good, or start wars simply to make himself richer or more important.
Which is the used to be, right? Remember when we read the Spanish King Philip started a war, tried to take over South America because they have gold. Remember that? Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Isaac Newton, John Locke, and many other men and women in England and Europe began to accept these ideas about the government, and also to believe that the universal laws discovered through observation governed every part of human life. Today, we often talk about these ideas as Western ideas. Sometimes we talk about the years when these ideas became popular as the Enlightenment.
Yes.
But in the days of John Locke, the eastern countries of the world often did not agree with the West.
That's China as the central. It's basically monarchy, right? So yeah. Go ahead.
As a matter of fact, when Japan closed its harbors, one reason...
Yeah, we read some China on several Japanese character, my Indian ruling, so they're worse than Chinese. Chinese are the inner democracy, more like a constitutional monarchy than those absolute monarchy, so yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
As a matter of fact, when Japan closed its harbors, one reason was to prevent Enlightenment ideas from coming in, and from encouraging Japanese citizens to question the power of Shandong.
Shandong! Ready to wrap it up, or are you ready to move on? Coffee's not here, so there's nothing to drink or eat.